Hi, all. Come here, Mike. Okay. Just waiting for her to join.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. People tell me my audio gets messed up, so let me just adjust. Tell me if you can't hear me.
I can hear you okay.
Hopefully that works. I love
Yay.
your eyeliner. You look beautiful.
Thank you. It's my friend Meredith's eyeliner. She actually just came out with a book too called Fairest, which I highly recommend for anyone who's a little bit older and wants to read a really beautiful memoir about identity.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me. Can I just say you are so beloved? Like my DMs have just been filled with fans who are like, "You're going live with Lily." Like people really, really love you a lot, and it's really beautiful to see.
I have very dedicated, loving fans. I'm very, very lucky. I'm glad they're being sweet to you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, nothing but kindness, nothing but
Good.
kindness.
Good. That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. It's such a pleasure to be joining you today. My name is Kimberly Drew, and I'm a writer and curator based in New York City. A lot of the work that I do kind of appears across a few different disciplines. So, I'm trained as an art historian. I've worked in museums, in galleries, and then outside of them as well. And what else? And then I also work a bit in fashion as well too. So I find myself kind of in a mix of different spaces. But through all of those spaces, I try to think a lot about amplifying underserved voices, people who are traditionally pushed to the margins, and trying to figure out ways that, especially institutions, can better serve those voices and those people. So those are the things that keep me up at night.
And so you're an author and you have a book.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
want to tell us about?
Happily with joy. So I wrote this book called This Is What I Know About Art, which just came out this week on Tuesday. So it's available everywhere that you buy books. And in the book, I write about my own career in the arts, working in galleries and working in museums, and some of the lessons that I learned along my journey. I'm a person who, and anyone who's following me knows, I'm very outspoken. In high school, I actually got most opinionated. But later in life, especially when I began a career in the arts, people started to label me as an activist. And it was a label that I really didn't like. I felt like, to me, activism was tying yourself to a tree or going on a hunger strike or not having a job at a traditional institution. And in this book, I really write about how, specifically, how some excuse me, write specifically to some of the smaller changes that or smaller, I guess, steps that I've taken in my own journey towards understanding myself as an activist.
Right.
Because, at the end of the day, activism is really believing in something. It's really making your voice heard until you see those changes made. It doesn't have to be big, grand, sweeping gestures. It can be those small things that you have. It can be those tiny moments of courage. All those things are necessary if we're going to get to a better place than where we are right now.
Right. And so have you been using like writing art during this time? Has it been inspiring you to write?
Yes. So it's interesting, like pandemic time, it was increasingly difficult to stay focused.
Yeah.
I think everyone can agree. In those first few weeks, you're like, what do I do? Am I a person? Are these my hands? Like there was so much to try to make sense of. And I think in the last few weeks, especially, like I felt myself falling into a new normal, which in its own way felt really weird because there's so many ways in which especially the pandemic disproportionately affected folks. And so getting accustomed to it is almost like submitting in some way. And so I wanted to stay charged up, but you also can't be angry every single day. And of course, within the last few weeks, as we're seeing, especially like an incredible coming together of folks to say no to police brutality, I personally am like kind of shocked actually. I've been more productive than I've been in a really long time. So I've been writing quite a bit and interviewing friends and trying to make sure that when I feel, you know, especially from a mental health perspective, good, that I go out and march with others. So I've been feeling like strangely very productive and also trying not to burn out, but I feel a little revved up.
No, that's, I mean, I think times like these are the perfect opportunity. I mean, unfortunate as they may be, obviously, they produce a lot of art. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of art comes from. I think this time that we're going through right now is almost like a revolution. So I think it's, or I hope it is at least. And I think a lot of art comes from spaces like that. And it's also interesting you mentioned, you know, falling into a new norm is interesting because I have a friend who just the other day was like, yeah, I'm feeling sort of at odds with my boyfriend, and I feel sad, but it's just the pandemic. I know it'll, so people I think are kind of maybe pushing aside their mental health because they're blaming it on the pandemic, and it's like, this is not something to just be like, it'll get back to normal, because I don't think the world's not just gonna go back to normal. And so I think it's important for people to, yeah, I mean, maybe this is kind of the new norm, at least for a while, but to find an outlet to make things better and don't just kind of sit around and wait for the world to